Hello and welcome to a very special episode of What Do You Call It podcast. I'm your host, GB. Today's guest was featured in the well-received show Wrestlers from Netflix. He's the voice of OVW Wrestling. Please welcome Bryan Kennison. Bryan, how you doing today, mate? You all good?
Doing good, Jimmy. Thank you so much for having me. I'm actually at Davis Arena right now.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're pre-show mode, so I'm actually right now in the world famous Davis Arena, which the weird noise you heard at the beginning that might have rumored to be haunted, so it might have been the ghost getting involved in the show.
Fair enough, fair enough. We might have a third guest then. Uh,
Yeah.
Popping up in the show. Cool, cool. Thanks for the heads up. I was a bit confused then before recording, which is why, kind of the hesitation was there in the second intro. But no, thank you for the heads up. Um, Brian, what I want to do is kickstart by discussing the Wrestler series on Netflix that follows Al Snow in Ohio Valley Wrestling. You had an important role in the series, and as you're the voice of OVW, as I mentioned in the intro, it received great reviews, not just from the wrestling community, but just casual viewers. So I want to know, first of all, how did this series come about?
So it's really strange. By the time they got here, we didn't think they were going to be here because we had heard about it for like a year. Like, oh, people are talking about it. Oh, they're going to come in here and check things out. Oh, they're going to come fill. So we'd been hearing about it for like a year before they ever showed up.
Mhm.
So I think some of the new owners had some connections with some BBC Productions who did the show and the Netflix, and that's how the conversation started. But it was a very, very long process for them to actually get started. It was probably about a year, maybe a little over that, of just discussions and
Yeah.
negotiations of how it's going to work, and just honestly, even just figuring out who they were going to film before things ever started, because they had when they first started talking about it, there was a completely different group that they were talking about following, and a totally different angle. Like originally, I was they weren't going to talk to me at all. I wasn't supposed to be in the show in the slightest. It just
Yeah.
uh,
So
things
they
kind
didn't
of
just have
happened.
like people in their mindset on the roster, or the talent, this, and this, and them as well. That's it. No one else. Don't want to include them. It was kind of let's go with the flow and just play it by ear.
Yeah, yeah. I think they came in with like we're gonna follow these people. They have good stories, and then they got in here and just saw that OVW itself is like this nucleus of just stories that come together to
Yeah.
make a living, breathing thing. They're like, oh, well, let's start looking at all these pieces, and it just so happened they came in, during a transition of ownership and a bunch of other things. So there's a lot of stuff at play that I think the series became something way different than they expected it to.
Nice, nice, and we know what the result was. There's a lot of things I do want to touch on it. How did the talent feel about being filmed for the documentary?
Oh, the talent were thrilled, man. There was it's crazy. People's necks got like 6 inches longer while they were filming. They were just able to, but and I think everyone took it for what it was worth. I don't think anyone really tried to I don't say fully take advantage of the situation or anything. I think people, played it up. It's what everyone does. It's a larger than life business.
Yeah,
But I don't think anyone ever saw it as a negative. I think everyone saw it as a positive for OVW for all the opportunity it could bring anybody that had the opportunity in front of the camera. So the talent were really, really excited about it, and I will say that's something that I'll never forget. Is like the energy around that time. It was just so exciting, and there's fear of the unknown, but they say fear is also like one of the most exciting things in the world. So you felt like everyone had no idea what this documentary was going to be or how they were going to be perceived, but being a part of it, the energy was palpable, and that was really, really cool.
nice, nice. How did you personally feel after watching it?
I had mixed feelings, because we had no idea what was going to be shown. I mean, and they spent a whole summer with us, and then they're just gone. Like we became friends with the production crew, with Greg Wheatley, who did an incredible job with the show, and
Yeah.
Chelsea, and they were all incredible. And then they were just gone. They were like, "Oh shit! I
Oh
hope they
shit,
did."
yeah.
Yeah, like I hope I made a good impression because they just have like all these hours of footage and audio of me urinating and all these different things that I'm like. There's literally within the first 2 days they put a mic on me and there's an audio like I have to go to the bathroom. They're like, it's cool. It's like, okay. So I'm in the bathroom literally going, I'm sorry, whoever's listening to this, I'm gonna try to talk over it so the entire time you don't just have the audio. So there is some audio of me somewhere in Netflix's archives apologizing. But that, it was weird because it was really cool to be a part of, and then they left and were like, I don't know what I'm gonna look like.
Mm,
And I don't know how things are gonna turn out. And then it came out, and like you said, I was featured. I saw my name and, like the Netflix episode descriptions, and that was really cool. But then part of me was like a little frustrated that I don't think things were I think when you're here for a little bit of time and you see things, you're like, oh, I think that's how things go. But then when you're actually here, you're like, oh, that's not actually how
Yeah,
things happen. Like I think my biggest gripe is like, they show like the writing meeting and show like in one office talking to like two people, and it's like that's not really how it works. It was, like six of us that were on a phone call from like, 11 p.m. to like 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So it kind of discounted
mm,
some work. But at the same time, I think it did a good job of capturing how we all really care about each other and how we're all a family pushing for the
yeah,
same goal, and how we are very much like the Muppet Show. Like, who would ever think that Gonzo and Fonzie or Fozzie would hang out? Those are not two personality types that mesh. But here I am hanging out with Hollywood Haley J, and we're both really good friends because that's how the Muppet Show works.
yeah.
So I think it did a good job in that. So it is really cool being able to look at this life we're living and always having those moments crystallized and things like that. But I will say my final gripe is they took out all of my cool moments. I won a championship over that summer. They filmed it. I beat Shannon the Dude for a championship. Hit a beautiful stunner, picture perfect stunner, and then they didn't use the footage.
Hopefully, we get a director's cut. What other footage then did they miss? That's in the cutting floor.
So there's that. There's that. There's Shannon the Dude almost falling into a puddle. There's a really sweet moment of my wife and I hugging after I won my championship. And
Ah,
honestly, it's one thing like I really kind of want to just ask the director if I can get it for like an anniversary gift or something. But the first time they ever asked me to come in and sit down and do the sit down interview, that's when I knew I was going to be part of the show. Part of the show. They're like, hey, we need you to come in tomorrow and talk to us for 3 hours.
yeah.
But they were talking to me, and I was having obviously a hard time. And the dog didn't capture like really all the hard times of that summer. It got a lot more heavy than it drove into. But like I was having a really hard time, and he was giving me some really hard questions. As I was getting emotional, and he was like, hey, why don't you tell me about your wife? And I was like, oh, you mean Ash? And then like I remember just talking about her and having these moments where like I was so grateful, realizing the things I was saying that were coming out. It's like, fuck, I am lucky. I am a lucky guy. I love my wife, and like I was so ready to go home and see her.
Yeah.
And I was really kind of disappointed that she didn't get to see that part of the interview, that they didn't use that part for the show. I think it would have added a little bit more depth to my story and why I care so much about providing for my family and all that. But that that's one thing I wish they had. I wish they had included. I think it would have had a little, like I said, a little bit more understanding of what I was going through and what I was doing. But at least they kept this. She refused to make out with me, so balance.
Honestly, I thought he came across well. Al Snow, yeah, big fan of him, wrestling legend. I love the fact he's quite blunt. And I didn't know he was actually like that. I know some fans are kind of not necessarily put off, but kind of shocked that Al Snow is just this straightforward, doesn't take shit, and kind of says it how it is. And I thought it was great. Even Shearer from TNA, seeing him, and I thought he came across great. Thought he was brilliant.
Kira is one of the nicest, hardest working people I've ever seen in professional wrestling. 6 years here at Hot Point Davis Arena. I got to throw in Hot Point now, we're sponsored. But Shira works so hard. He's one of the first to show up. He is one of the last to leave, and he is so humble.
Hmm.
He's so incredibly nice, and it's insane to me how he can go through the curtain and be, adrenaline up to a million. Veins popping out so bad they're going to hit the audience in the eyeballs. Like, and then as soon as it comes back to the curtain, he's like, "Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That was great. I really appreciate everything you did for me." They're like, he just turns this 180, and this is this really humble, sweet dude.
Yeah.
I think the documentary captured Chiro perfectly. I think it captured the hard work and effort, the charismatic nature of Haley, and it definitely caught Al and how he likes to handle business and how he likes to conduct things. Al is a very unique individual, um, but I think being unique in that way, he makes the other people around him unique.
Hmm.
I think his personality drives personality and change out of others. I can definitely say I'm not the same person I was 6 years ago when I showed up here, and a big part of that is Al forcing me to grow and change,
Yeah.
and adapt. And he doesn't just give you false compliments. And I think a lot of people take Al when he doesn't, like when he'll be like, oh, your match was the shit. You need to do this and this. So like, oh, he just does everything. To a point,
Got the
when you
voice there, by the way.
oh, well, I can do an Al impression. But when you get to be 850 years old, you can be a little cranky. But it's all he knows is shit. But he also, that's when he does tell you did good, it means that much more. Like there's been a million times that I was like, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to slow down, And but there's also that one in a million times where he came up to me, he's like, hey, I think you're doing really great, and I think you should know that I think you are defining OVW sound right now,
Mm.
much like Joey Styles defined ECW.
That's a
He's like,
big
it's
compliment.
a great job, kid. And then he walked away, and I was like,
Did he just
it was
say
just
that
like,
in the end?
yeah, it was like this huge thing, and I was like, thanks, man. Like that was massive to me, and it was massive because I know he didn't just do it to get. He wasn't doing it just to kiss my ass. He was doing it because he thought I reached a point where it's like I need to let this kid know he's doing well, and it wasn't just a throwaway compliment. It was one he knew like what it meant. He knew why he was doing it, and that's. So I think people take Al's lack of compliments as him being kind of whatever. But I think it's more he compliments you when you've reached a certain point, and it means that much more when you've earned it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, as opposed to like spoon feeding you with false compliments, like, yeah, I'm doing well, and then everyone else is like, you're not really, are you? And then when you
Yeah.
know you're doing well and you don't receive a lot, but you do, it's special.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I think you picked up on. I'm an excitable person, so I'm really quick to be like when I find my guys after the match, like, oh my gosh, like that was incredible. Like last week with Freya, I found Freya, like Freya, that was one of my favorite matches I've ever seen you do. Yeah, like I'm very quick to be like that's so much fun. Now I'm like, yeah, it's good. Because he wants to tell you it was good, but that was way when he's like, "Man, that was fucking great." It was great. It wasn't just
Yeah,
me grading. It's him giving that grade, that solidification of yes, that was great, and I'm not just sugarcoating. I'm not gilding the lily. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And I think working with somebody like that, it does make you. You don't strive for adulations as much. You don't strive for pats on the back as much. I think you pat your own back and say, I'm doing well. I know I'm doing well. I don't need someone else to tell me to do well. You know what I mean? You kind of learn that by doing it for so long.
no, absolutely, absolutely agree. With Al Snow, I don't really get the opportunity to discuss him, and you doing the voice quickly there, and I've met him in London a couple of years ago. Really nice guy. I actually got a mannequin head signed. Uh,
Um, I've got a lot of funny Al stories. I'll give you a one really nice one, and then I'll give you one where I can do an impression, and then one where I can't really do the
go
impression
for it,
because
man. Go for it. You're the guest, man. You tell me. You tell me.
so, so Steve, my partner on Overdrive, Dances TVJ, he and I have worked with Al now for better part of 10 years. So we know him really well. He knows us really well. And he trusts us, and we also have this kind of banter with him that I don't think a lot of people can get away with. We can say shit to Al that a lot of people can't say. So that being said, I will say back in the day, like we first knew Al really trusted us is when we started Overdrive. Like we had been doing commentary, what we hadn't been doing on the main show. We were just doing it dark. And I remember we came back to the curtain, and he's like, "Guys, come here right now." What do we do? Well, he's like, "Look, I don't know how else to tell you this. You can't do commentary anymore. I just can't have you do commentary anymore." And I immediately looked at Steve. I was like, "What'd you say? Did you curse?" And he's like, "No, Steve didn't curse." He's like, "I told you I didn't curse." And he's like, No, stop it, guys. No, I'm giving you your own show, damn it." Like, oh, okay. So that's my fun. I'm like,
Yeah.
open with that. Don't just tell us you're taking stuff.
Yeah,
Open
and
with
it's just like, what the fuck do we
it.
do?
I was 100% like, what the fuck do we do, man? So that was the fun one. My favorite thing now, honestly, is because okay, and I'll give you a sweet one too. There's a day he and I were getting lunch. We just met with a potential venue, and he and I were. It's in the afternoon. We were across the street from Country Boy Brew. We're like, we'll grab a beer, and we're sitting there. It's beautiful out. The beer's fantastic, and I was like, oh shit, I need to do this thing really quick. And he just dropped my hand down and pushed it down, put the phone down. He's like, the phone's not ringing. The phone's not ringing now, Brian. Sometimes you just gotta appreciate when the phone's not ringing. I was like, shit, that's sage. That is sage and gravelly. So I
Yeah.
put the phone down. We just sat there and had a beer. But my favorite story is a recent one. We were asked to do the roast of Al Snow. And I don't know if you saw the video. But we were asked to do the roast of Al Snow, and and we were asked to do it together. So I called Steve. I'm like, yo, what do you want? How do you want to do? What do you want to do? And he's like, I want to marry his mom. Like, because Al's thing is always, your mom, I did this to your mom. Your mom did this. I said that to your mom. That's his thing. So Steve's like, I want to marry this asshole's mom. Okay. All right, man, let's figure it out. So we called Al's wife. We're like, yo, can you get us in touch with Mama Snow? Because we got an idea. She was up for it. We got her down here from Lima, Ohio. We went to this hotel to do the roast of Al. We hid her up in a hotel room. And then the time came for me and I remember they asked us like, wait, when do you want to go on the roasting panel? Like, we have to go last. Ain't nobody gonna be able to go after us. We have to go last.
Yeah.
So we did the whole roast. We roasted everybody, and then we got to the end, and I was like, Al, roast from where I come from because I have a background in comedy. You roast the ones you love. It's nice about love. Um, so I think we're gonna do, I think tonight that's all about love. Steve, Al, we're gonna do a wedding because Steve found someone he loves. You can see Al like, "Fuck are these guys doing? What are they talking about?"
Where's this going? Where's this going?
And I was like, "So let's go ahead and bring him out in here." And then,
Yeah.
and literally only probably three people in the room knew it was gonna happen.
Oh.
And so she comes down, and I had to introduce like everyone. This is Al's actual mother, and then the room just erupted. And Al hasn't seen her for I guess for a while, so he
Yeah.
like breaks down. And my wife got a great video of it. He's like crying. He's like, "Oh my gosh!" And he hugs her. And my favorite, most delicious moment of it though is he hugs her, and then as he pulls away, he realizes what's about to happen. Did you see the sobering of like, oh God. And like Steve's over in the background, you're like, okay, here we go. We do the whole, and I had told Al 3 days before. I was like, Al, you inspired me. I got ordained. I can do weddings now. Why the fuck would you do that? I was like, so I can be part of your mom's wedding, you bitch. He's like, yeah. Ha, ha, ha. And so I even brought like, Al, remember I told you 3 days ago I got ordained? He goes, oh God.
And you've lived to tell the tale, mate. That's fucking brilliant.
Oh yeah. It was the
When
kiss that really sold it. It's the fact that he kissed his mom.
he gets fucking hell.
Oh, and the beautiful part of that was when we met her beforehand, and Steve had to go up to her like, "Hey, nice to meet you, Al's mom. I hope you're okay with it. I am gonna kiss you during this if you're comfortable with it." She's like, "Well, yeah, I haven't been kissed for a while. I hope you're comfortable with what I might be doing." And so we're like, "Whoa, that took a turn." But yeah, man, live to tell the tale. And the thing is, the only way he can one up us at this point is to sleep with both our moms. And at that point, that joke's on him. So.
Oh, you sealed the roast with a kiss. Where's this roast? Where can not just the fans but myself see this if they've not already seen it?
I shared it's on like my Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, but I can send you a link directly as
Yes,
well.
please. Yes, please. I absolutely need to see this. I might have to put something just on, whilst we're talking and just fucking hell, mate. You're so brave. I wouldn't have the balls to do that. Just, oh my God. Just so creative as well. Such a creative prank for a roast.
It was well, it had for him. It made sense because, like I said, his big joke is always your mom, your mom. I do this with your mom. So, all right, man, you wrote this narrative, so here.
Thank you
And
for being the influence and the inspiration for this.
yeah, it was the weirdest thing. Like 12-year-old me is probably freaking out. Like this is Al Snow's real mom. You were conducting a wedding. Al's right there. Maven is in the audience. Like it was just such a
Oh
weird.
my God.
EC3 was there. I was like, this is just like the weirdest, but like, like, and to be there with like your best pal. 'Cause a lot of people don't know that. Steve and I are actually best friends in real life. And we got
Yeah,
to do all this weird shit together. So to like kind of take all that in, like, man, this is the weirdest fucking thing in the world, right? But how cool is this? And, like, I don't know. It's that old mantra of you can make friends, you can make money. Luckily, I showed up with the friends. We're all right.
nice. I
Yeah.
applaud you for that, mate. Oh, I forgot to ask now, Brian. So, Al's nice mum, shout out to her as well for being a good sport, and shout out to Al as well. I'm sure he was kind of seething a little bit, but he took it like a man.
He, and you know what? He's like, that's the best. He's like, I respect you for that. That is good. Like
Yeah,
that, we earned his respect that day. He's like, that's a good fucking rib. It's like,
bravo, bravo.
yeah, yeah, took a bow.
Have you always been a fan of professional wrestling? It's just because a lot of wrestling personalities, even though they've become really good at the craft and not just wrestling, but just outside the ring, production, commentary, announcing, but they haven't actually been fans of it before they got involved. So I want to ask you, Brian, have you always been a fan?
Yeah, I've always been a fan. Even when I was tiny and I had no idea what was happening, playing with the LJNs. I can remember that very clearly being a tiny guy playing with these things that just would not bend.
Yeah,
But I remember very distinctly, the moment that I got completely hooked at like a cognizant age was the WrestleMania where Stone Cold came to be against Shawn Michaels, where he finally came to fruition and won the heavyweight championship.
that's wonderful. Yeah,
Like Outlaws versus Cactus Jack and Mick Foley, or sorry, Cactus Jack and Chainsaw Charlie, and it was just or was it Chainsaw Charlie next time? I can't remember because I remember that's when I got sucked in.
Chainsaw Charlie. I'm that much of a nerd to know that.
Was that?
It was Chainsaw Charlie. He was right.
So I was right, yeah. And I just remember like watching like that whole show, just being mesmerized like this because it was the night before the New Age Outlaws joined DX as well.
Yeah,
Because I remember as a kid going, well, these guys should be part of this group. This like it made sense to me. And I remember watching the Raw after Mania, and then X Pac coming back, and this whole like that time like stands still for me. And I remember it very clearly as a very formative time, and that's what sucked me into wrestling. And I've been into it since then. I mean, there is obviously, and everyone says at that time in my like mid-teens, late teens, where I fell out of it a little bit because I was trying to make out with girls at the time and I got sidetracked. But as soon as I accepted that I was 5'4" and no one wanted to make out with me, I was like, well, I can at least watch wrestling.
yeah,
And that's I've just been sucked in, man. And that's like and I guess I've been always been a theater nerd too. And I think that's the thing with wrestling is it is theater to the max. It's drama, it's comedy, it's horror, it's everything you want it to be, anything you can make it. It's only limited by your own creativity. So I haven't been just a fan of wrestling. I've been a fan of literally everything you can do in wrestling, not just the matches, but like that's what I told Mick Foley, and why it was such an honor to do commentary with them. He taught me you didn't have to look like a wrestler to be in wrestling. That you didn't have to talk like a wrestler to be in wrestling. You could be funny, you could be different, you could be entertaining. And that's why when we sat down at the commentary desk for the first time, I told Steve, I was like, I'm not going to change anything. I want to go out there and be me. And if people will like that, then I can just keep doing commentary. Because that's what I was told about comedy forever ago. I told someone, I was like, will you read my jokes? I'm like, it doesn't really work like that. Like, you should go up there and do what you think is funny. And if people laugh at that, then you're
mm.
supposed to be a comedian.
And if you don't find it funny, learn from it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of with commentary. I was like, I'm not going to try to be JR. I'm not going to be Cole. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to watch wrestling. I'm going to talk about it and react to it. And that's one of the very few compliments Al gave me before. It's like, that's why you're good at what you do, because you're not trying to do anything. You're reacting, which is exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So, and
I mean, essentially, that's I was going to ask. That's going to be my next question. I mean, like, you called hundreds of matches, and I was going to ask, what to you personally makes a good commentator?
honesty, like, and that's the thing. Like Michael Cole, what's really fun about Michael Cole is when you can tell he's having fun, but you can tell something like excites him or pops him, or like, and he's like,
Yeah,
that sucks you in, that draws you in, and it's honesty. And I think that's what I've always loved. And I think it comes through like back in the day when Mick Foley got thrown off the top of the cell. When JR screamed, he screamed because that was someone he cared about. That was his friend. He was
yeah.
genuinely reacting, and that's why that resonates with
Like,
you all.
good God Almighty, he's broken him in half. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not even going to attempt the JR voice, but you go back and listen to it. Fucking hell. Goose-
yeah. It resonates. It sticks
Yeah,
because he was really reacting, and like I think that is what really sells it is genuine reacts. I hate when someone seems like someone's trying to hit a line. I hate when it feels like someone's like reacts up and going, "Oh, that person, them." It's like you're not react. No one talks that way. It's the
mm,
same way I hate when like a wrestler is trying to skirt around cursing and they say bull crap. I'm like, you wouldn't say bull crap if you were really mad.
yeah,
I mean, like that does. I don't believe you. And if I can't believe you, I can't believe you. I don't believe what you're watching. Was it Michael Caine? I just read this thing he did in an interview where he said director stopped him. When he was trying to act drunk. He's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm trying to act drunk." I was okay. Well, a drunk person doesn't try to act drunk. They try to act sober. He's like, "You're trying to act drunk." He's like, "So you need to be a drunk person trying to act sober." And he's like, and it's just a different way of thinking about things. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm not out there trying to be a commentator. I'm out there reacting, which makes me a commentator, if that makes sense.
No, no, it does. I think for me personally, it's quite interesting. I was speaking to you before recording. I'll kind of dip my toe now into commentary. I've done two shows, and it's made me really appreciate how important a good commentator is, and that's what makes me appreciate you in your role.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think, and I will say, and like Mauro Ronaldo, however you pronounce that. That's what I always loved about him too. Was like everything he loved what he's doing, and
Yeah,
he really got excited about what was happening. And I think that is what makes him probably one of the better commentators of the last, I'll argue decade, just because he's so fun. But that being said, I think the commentator also needs to know when to have a little bit of fun because you are with the audience for 2 hours at a time.
yeah,
And I think it's okay to have a little levity here and there. You don't have to be so serious all the time. Like, I think it's at our desk, especially where like if someone says something silly, it's totally all right to be like, but hold on, what the fuck did you just say to me? Like without saying that, but it's one of those. It's okay to acknowledge it because then the audience is like, oh, they're not just trying to lie to us; they're acknowledging when they mess up things too. And I will, yeah, I will divulge a little secret. I like to have a little fun sometimes, and I'll throw out sayings that don't necessarily make a lot of sense, but feel like they would. Like, well, that's hotter than a Mississippi train track. Like it's like, yeah, if you don't think about it too much, you're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it makes you obviously it makes you think at the same time. It's like, did he just say that? But yeah.
Yeah, but by the time you try to catch up to what I said, I'm already 5 or 6 things past it. I've already moved on. You're like, I gotta get Mississippi has hot train tracks. I don't know. I don't have time to fact check this guy. So,
I find
but
that proper interesting, man. Honestly, it's just one thing for me personally. It's try not to swear, and like I think going back to what you said, that same things I wouldn't say. And I think the first show I listened back to, I was like, oh God, I actually wouldn't say that, would I? And just not trying to sound rehearsed or false, or it's a hard one to be honest because the shows that I do are very family orientated.
yeah,
Like specifically, they are family shows and no cursing, no blood, that sort of thing.
yeah.
And you got to find ways around being kind of embracing the chaos and the action that's going on without being you know a foul-mouthed commentator.
Exactly. Well, and that's what, I like the implication because we're the exact same thing. We're like one of our networks we air on is a Christian-based network. And so, I'll drop are you kidding me? What the? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
then you stop yourself. But yeah, same thing. And I will say then it's like, it's what we call a good damn. It's like, you leave it. You don't say it until something really dashingly. It's like, damn him. Oh, come on, damn it. Like, then it's
yeah,
just, don't ever use it. That way it's really, and if that's the hardest word you use, you're not doing too bad. But that's, I try to act like I'm going to curse, but I don't actually curse on the desk. And Al hates it. He's like, I know you were about to. It's like, no, man, that's the point. Is you're supposed to think I'm about to. Like you're supposed to
yeah,
feel like I'm about to. Like that I stop myself from doing it. Because that sells that I am emotionally, you know what I mean? Like I'm reacting. So and that is a hard line to walk. And that is something you get used to. I mean, what have I been doing live TV now for half a decade, I guess. I've built up that callus of, from anything can happen, will happen. So yeah, I think I've just gotten used to acting like I was going to curse on a regular basis. To where now it's not second nature for me. And having a kid will really help that because then you get used to almost really cursing and stopping yourself halfway.
yeah.
So,
You're absolutely smashing, mate. Brian, one last question, and I will let you go for the rest of the day because I think it's still early afternoon for you at the moment at time recording. What does OVW mean to you?
um, and that's weird because I think OVW has been something different to me at different stages of my life.
Hmm.
I think when I first got here, it gave me a real strong sense of identity. And then once I found who I was here and the holes I could fill and what needed to be done in the company, I think it gave me a sense of purpose. And I think now, with growing up with people and being through the experiences we've been through together, I think now it's that sense of family and that sense of home. Um, Even if I leave or go somewhere, these are the people that I can see at any point, and there's a familiarity and a bond. They say brotherhood's born in the trenches, and I believe it with that. Yeah. So yeah, I think no matter where I go, these people always mean something to me, and I can always come back here. Um, that sense will be here. I've been very blessed that when I was growing up, I always wanted to be part of SNL and be part of that end where they all come together like a great show and they do the hug and everything. And I've been really lucky to be able to do that for like half a decade here, half a decade of television to do that at Davis Arena. And so now, I've done my purpose thing. I've done the trying to find my place. Now it is very much more of a family and a home.
Awesome. It's a good answer. I did want to use the term family, but Fast and Furious and Vin Diesel have unfortunately ruined that term. But I get exactly what you mean, mate. Close.
Yeah, I didn't even think about the Vin Diesel comparison there. Well,
It's like family. Brian, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure, exchanging stories and just, speaking to the voice of OVW. Where can the fans find you on social media if they want to keep up to date with what you got lined up for the rest of the year?
oh, very easy peasy. At Bryan Kennison on all three. At BryanKennison. Very, very easy. I got in early on all that junk. There's a guy, Bryan Kennison in Texas, who hates me because I got in on, he's
Yeah.
Bryan Kennison one on everything. So,
Fuck that one from Texas. It's all about you, mate. Thank you for coming on, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. If the listeners out there can give Brian a follow, if you can give me a follow on my social media handles, they will be in the description below. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. But for now, everyone, have a great week. Peace.